right, guys, and we are live here on the Rewind, the Wrestling Rewind channel. Of course, you're listening to Phoenix 92.5 FM. Thank you for sticking with us. Some technical issues, loads of technical issues, honestly. So yeah, thanks for joining us, and we are here every single week. So how are you, sir?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic, and it's a great day for wrestling. Everyone, welcome back to the only show hosted by people who don't hate wrestling. This is fantastic.
In theory.
And also welcome to our, in theory, and also welcome to our new home here on the Wrestling Rewind channel itself. Will, of course, still be backed up under Geno Media, but a little bit easier for you to find us. All you have to put in your little search queue on Google there or YouTube is Wrestling Rewind. And you'll be able to pull up our YouTube channel. So we're excited about that, trying to make things a little bit more accessible for you to find us in particular. And I gotta say, Dara, I'm even more excited because we covered a WCW pay-per-view this week that is, wow, amazing.
You're never picking a pay-per-view again.
One of the best pay-per-views of all time, easily.
No, it's not. You're never.
Wait, are you serious?
Yeah.
What are you talking about? I love this.
No.
This was amazing.
Oh, it was ropey, dude. It was very, very ropey. I was watching the whole time. I'm like, oh my god. You know, I didn't think it was bad though. I thought like there were some good moments in it. Like there were more good than bad.
There you go. See, this is why I shouldn't be banned from picking pay-per-views, because eventually they're going to get better and better.
Like it was, I would say it was better than the last one, which was, you know, all kinds of horrific.
World War III.
Yeah. That was so much worse. But
I just had really good memories of this one in my mind, and they held up.
No, they did not. I mean, how dare
they
you?
might have.
How dare you? So guys, if you're joining us in the chat, please do comment below and we'll be able to read them. But man, I don't know. Like, so what was interesting about the show was that it was in 1999 and it was in January. So this was the show that came directly after Starrcade, which is when Goldberg, obviously his undefeated streak was gone, right? Ugh. And it was beaten in the worst way possible via a stun gun and then shenanigans. Yes. Also, what's interesting about this is this whole time period, the NWO had come back. So the NWO were gone, they were defeated, and that was it. But then they decided to snake their way back. So all throughout this night, it was just kind of like, oh, we got this. You know, the NWO are coming back, and then the commentators had to explain why. But the funniest part of the night for me was with Scott Hall, where they're like, yeah, and we got the and was it Bruce Buffer? Was it Bruce Buffer?
Yeah, Bruce Buffer did the
Michael Buffer. Sorry,
Michael. Bruce, because he was the UFC, and he does the one that says
yes.
Yeah, no, he doesn't do UFC. His brother Bruce does UFC. Michael is the one that does Let's Get Ready to Rumble.
Yeah, and he's the one that does.
We know our history, folks.
But what, you know, Scott Hall's entrance, he was talking for like 2.5 minutes.
It was fantastic. It was like,
I hated
a founding member of the former tag team champions, the Outsiders, a founding member of the original NWO, a founding member of the Red and Black, also known as the Wolfpack NWO.
It was dire.
How many accolades do you need? Like,
well, it's just like you could just say, hailing from such and such, it's Scott Hall.
Right.
That would have been enough, right?
It would have been enough. But I mean, I loved it. And okay, so yes, I agree with you. It's kind of a bit absurd, but man, the one thing about WCW that I miss that we don't get in WWE, and obviously it's because it's kind of his little trademark thing, but it is fun to hear Let's Get Ready to Rumble before the main event, isn't it?
No.
Oh, come on, man. You can't destroy everything about this show. That's fun.
No. It was the least. No, well, I think what annoyed me most about that is like he got paid thousands for that. Like we're talking serious money. Yeah. He was one of WCW's biggest
contracts?
expenses. Yeah, and you're like, Why? Like, I have to say, a
It's
couple of things.
awesome, man. What's
It's
wrong
been
with you? What
it's
is wrong with
it's
you?
been a
Who
while
doesn't
since
like hearing "Let's get ready to rumble"? Who's?
it,
Oh my
it's been
gosh,
a
it's
while since I've seen WCW, so I haven't actually like kind of like actual like late WCW. This is late stage
right.
WCW, and a couple of things I like. So I kind of want to be positive because we like to be positive here. So the first thing, I really liked the music. I thought the music was super grungy, and I
Mm,
forgot how like because it literally was just Jimmy Hart by himself making this up. And I'm like, oh,
yes.
you did the best you could, and I kind of liked it. I love the presentation. Although then I start getting like AEW flashbacks, and I'm like, no,
No, but we can't. You got to separate.
yeah,
This is the original.
I
This
know,
is what was
I know,
copied.
I know, but
It was actually good.
you can really see it. Like you're like, oh, AEW are just
Hmm.
pulling us off. Um,
Except AEW doesn't even pull it off as well.
no, they don't. They don't. There's like a weird charm to WCW, which you're like, actually, this is really good.
There's a cool charm. I like that the NWO in the logo. For
Was kind
obviously
of
this
was
is
yeah
sold out.
was
Yeah, it was
scratched out.
spray
Yeah,
painted out. Yeah,
it was good.
that was cool. Cool.
I liked the way they replayed stuff. Where it's kind of like a rewind graphic.
Yes.
Yeah, that was cool. I was like, those little things are really good. But what I liked about most of this was this. It really felt different. It was a really you watch
Hmm.
WWF and then you watch this and you're like, there's no way you're watching the same product. It's not even close. And that's for
Mm.
good and bad. Um, some things that some observations, some like surface level of
Hmm.
observations. So many old guys. you
Yeah.
you watch WWF and you have The Rock at the same time, right? You have The Rock, you have Stone Cold Steve Austin, Triple H, Undertaker, Mankind. At this time, remember, it was Mick Foley and The Rock. They were
Hmm.
having their big feud, and they'd have their infamous attempted murder match a couple of days from this point. And you're just like, wow, WCW really were banking on talent who were past their sell by date 5 years at this point. And that's one thing that I kind of forgot. I was like, really? Oh yeah, but this is WCW. So that was one thing. Another thing was a lot of we would be getting to the point now where the outsiders are going to leave. Jericho would be in WWF in
Hmm.
5 months. Benoit, um, just on this card, Benoit, Saturn, would both be gone. They would be in WWF a year later.
Very true.
And this card does contain an awful lot of jobbers.
And it does contain an awful lot of jobbers,
And it does
but I don't
contain
think
an.
anybody. I don't think that anybody is a bigger jobber than whoever wrote the Wikipedia article
Yeah, they
for
leave
this
out. They
because
leave out a lot. They leave out an
no, can
awful
we
lot.
just? I'm just going to read this because this is two sentences and this needs to be read. And if you wrote this and you're listening to this podcast, don't ever listen to us again. Um, this is the story. This is under storylines on Wikipedia for this. The event featured wrestlers from pre-existing scripted feuds and storylines. Wrestlers portrayed villains, heroes, or less distinguishable characters in the scripted events that built tension and culminated in a wrestling match or series of matches.
That's yeah.
Thanks.
That doesn't give you
Thanks,
any.
Wikipedia. That you didn't even have the effort to put in
Well, let's see who wrote that. Oh, I can't even pronounce that name. But it comes from a book called How Pro Wrestling Works. So obviously, this is someone who actually didn't
how
watch
pro
the
wrestling.
show.
Well, clearly they don't even
Yeah,
know.
they
Yeah,
don't.
they
They
just
don't know. Well, he's not wrong. Ed something. I'm not going to say his second name, but we're just going to call him
okay.
Ed.
It might not be wrong, but what I want to know is if I follow this and I follow through this kid's post history, if we find out that he's done this for multiple WCW cards throughout history
Well,
on
here's the thing.
Wikipedia,
It just shows you how unsuccessful WCW was at this point, where
that nobody's
WW.
noticed it until us right now.
Well, not even that. It's like you go to the WWF one. I guarantee you go to Royal Rumble 1998. You're going to have a detailed breakdown of exactly what happened on that show.
Oh yeah.
But that's because stuff actually happened on that show. Very little happened on this show, and that's the biggest takeaway from this. This show, you know what? This really felt like a modern WWE show because like you could watch it and you'd be entertained. You might get one or two things out of it, but you could just not watch it and it's no consequence. Like there was literally nothing of consequence on
Mm.
the show, and also something I really want to talk about, and I don't know if you got that kind of feel from it.
Well, I did get that feel. I
Did
made a
you?
note about something along those lines. It
Yeah,
specifically said like this is one of the best shows that you'll watch and then completely forget that you ever watched.
yeah. That's it. Like it's a very enjoyable show, but nothing happens. Like
Right.
there's no real consequence to it. It's just kind of, well, there you go. Except mainly the main event, but we'll get to that. Right. So let's start things off. So this comes to you from, well, it came from you, 20 years ago, from West Virginia, which I've never been to. I don't know what it's like. It seems nice.
It's nice.
Tony Schiavone, Bobby the Brain Heenan, Mike Tenay.
It's a great commentary team.
My favorite commentary team. Can I just say I love anytime that Mike Tenay is there.
Sounds phenomenal.
Yeah, he's great. And it's all top of the game. I kind of wish that WWE took Mike Tenay and Tony Schiavone and put them with JR. That would have been cool. At their peak, that would have been a cool team to have. But yeah, it was really good. I hate me Gene Okerlund.
Oh, how dare you!
Cannot stand him.
How dare you! Get out of here!
I don't like him.
You're fired.
No, I don't like him.
Fired.
It's same with Cody Rhodes. Hate him too. Those two.
Wait, what? That one I could understand. The other is an atrocity to even be saying, man.
No. Both are just terrible. Both have X-Pac heat with me. I'm like, just go away, please.
Wrong.
Okay, so
wrong.
So we had our standard kind of set. By the way, have you ever seen the original Souled Out from 1997?
No.
Oh, we're gonna cover that next. That is next week.
So all of a sudden WCW is in vogue here on the wrestling.
No, it's because you have to see what they've done to it, right? So the first Souled Out was kind of like ECW One Night Stand, where it was his own thing. It was a bad thing, but it was its own
NWO,
thing.
Right? It was the first one, and then the second one was like mixed, and then this one was supposed to be just WCW. Okay,
yeah.
I caught that storyline.
Yeah, so that was it. But when you actually see it, you can see why they never had another NWO show. So I thought this was kind of weird to like have this.
I think I've heard some stories. Wait till
you see it. Wait till you see it. So that's why it's a thing. It's not good, but it's something worth seeing. So when I was watching this initially, I was like, wow, this feels like, the One Night Stand show that they had in like 2008, which had nothing got to do with anything. That's what this kind of felt like. It was like, oh, this holdover from a bygone age, from a time immemorial, right? So that was kind of weird. But
how bizarre is that for something that's only 4 years old? I mean, NWO debuted in 1995. This is 1999.
Well, it ran its course, man. Like, it really ran its course.
Yeah. Really quickly. I mean, we're not talking about a 10-year gap between One Night Stand and ECW.
No, we're talking 5 years. So the first match opened up with Chris Benoit, which I have to say the match itself was fantastic. Really good opener. And Mike Enos. And that lad is a jobber to the stars. And what I'd say is around this time period, watch the jobbers because they're usually someone famous, either Chris Daniels or AJ Styles.
Very true.
They just randomly show up, and there's those guys from the indies who you know. So always watch the jobbers because they're usually someone who becomes famous a couple of years later. Mike Enos, I don't think he was famous.
I don't recall him doing anything.
He wasn't.
I remember. No.
He was a solid bag of meat for
solid bag of meat
for Benoit to beat around the ring for a little while.
Benoit was vicious in the 90s. Oh my goodness.
But also this would be a year away from him debuting. So this is like rabid Wolverine, and he was there, total package. He really was just, he should have been in the main event, not Goldberg and Scott Hall. You can see why this company was making the wrong decisions because who they had in their opener should have been one of their main stars, right? So
it's fair.
It was a great little 10-minute match. Very fun, really enjoyed it. The next match, not so much. But before we get to that, what did you think about this opener?
No, I enjoyed the opener. Like I said, I thought it was really intense all the way around. I was surprised by it. It's hard when I don't necessarily remember a specific wrestler or that might be unfamiliar to them. Like, am I going to enjoy this match that they're in? Speaking of Mike Enos, but I liked it. I thought that he performed well, and nothing stands out for me in the match other than just how vicious Benoit was with those chokes.
Yeah,
my goodness.
And the crippler crossface never looked so vicious. Where he locked it in, and that was it. It really was kind of. Although from what we know now, I'm not talking obviously about the obvious thing, but from what we know about his mindset at this point in time, they were annoyed to be there. They were frustrated that they're not being overlooked, or they're being overlooked and they're not. So they did kind of have something to prove, and you can see it.
Well,
You can feel it in this match.
Yeah.
There's that intensity there, and you're like, oh, this guy's gonna go out and kill someone, and
well, not
in
just
his
that.
matches.
What a weird way to phrase that there. But not just that.
I'm trying to look at it.
Yeah, I get what you're doing. I know, but looking at it in its context, though, we also have to. We both watched the Vice series on this, and so seeing later in the card, we'll see Miss Elizabeth with Lex Luger, and that could not have been easy on Chris Benoit either. So, oh my gosh, just everything that must have been going through his head on this night.
Absolutely, it was. There's a lot to unpack in this. A lot of stuff that we know from the Vice series, from books and all that kind of stuff, and it's just weird to see. And he'd still go out and have this incredible match. If you guys haven't seen this, check out the show pretty much solely for this match. I'd say if you just want one match to pick from it, this is probably the best one.
Also, the main event's really good.
The main event is really good. So it's bookended quite well. The next match was atrocious.
I mean, it's Norman Smiley. What do you expect?
And I think Norman Smiley found his feet a couple of years later on the indies, and also when he'd had the garbage matches. I think that was kind of his stick. Doing a straight match with Chavo Guerrero, it wasn't good.
Chavo did not impress me at all.
No,
in this match.
he didn't. I didn't even realize it was Chavo.
He looks so weird. Something was off about him. I don't know what it was.
I think it's his face or his hair looks kind of off, and I'm like, you don't.
We're just used to seeing him 20 years in the future, so going back, it's like, who is that dude?
Maybe
that could be it. Yeah. One thing I wanted to touch on that we were kind of hinting at in the previous match, though, something I noticed more about WCW than WWF is it feels like you can kind of tell the real life storylines that are going on behind the scenes spilling out into the ring, and not in a good way.
Yeah, it's because there's no characters in WCW. They're just themselves. Or sorry, let me rephrase that. The people that should have characters don't. And the ones that do doesn't really matter. For example, the luchadors, there's no real point of them being luchadors because nobody cares about their character because they're not doing anything other than having incredible matches.
Incredible matches.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll get to that. Unbelievable match. But Lex Luger and Conan, you guys just don't like each other. Legitimately, there's just that kind of heat,
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, Norman Smiley and Chavo, absolute match that your life will not be affected either way. And I felt bad because it had a tough act to follow and it failed miserably, as did Fit Finlay and Van Hammer. By the way,
why did this match have 15 minutes, almost 16 minutes?
I don't know.
It was the second longest match on the card. I don't get that at all.
I don't know. But I was happy when it was over, and then straight into Fit Finlay. Who, look, I was excited to see Fit Finlay. I'm like, oh, cool. I haven't seen Fit Finlay in a while. And it was kind of, again, very solid technical match with a guy who was called Van Hammer, which I appreciated. I thought that name was cool.
Right.
He looked like a jobber, and I was just like, this is like watching a shotgun match from the same time period on WWE, right? Or something like that, where you're like, yeah, they're having a competitive match, but it doesn't mean anything. It's just, what's the point? And it felt
it's the absence of storylines. We've been harping so much on how WWF has these storylines that interweave throughout the night, and they did do that to an extent only with the main event, but there was no build up for each individual match in terms of, okay, this is why you should care, and this is what's been happening. It was just like, and here's two guys that are going to wrestle. Great.
Yeah, it's so modern WWE, where it's like, here's the guys who are going to have a match. Okay, go.
All right, and you're off.
And you're like, why? Why does Fit Finlay hate Van Hammer? Oh, because. So the whole time I was sitting there, and I loved the way Shivani presents the show. Obviously having Mike Tenay there calling all the moves and stuff, it's great, but there's no reason to watch the show. There's nothing kind of hooking me into watching. I was just like, I have to watch it because we're covering it later. And that was just kind of like, and the match wasn't bad. And the worst part, sorry, before you jump in, the worst part was the matches weren't bad. They just didn't mean anything. It was just at no point were they telling the story. I couldn't tell you why they were fighting each other. And that's I think the worst. I think that fundamentally goes against what wrestling's supposed to be, right?
Memorable drama, intrigue, psychology. Yeah, I mean, I think the sad part of it is exactly what you're saying. I mean, I watched this on Monday, originally thinking we'd be recording on Tuesday. It's now we're recording on Friday, obviously. And if you're listening in Ireland, hi, it's Tuesday. I just confused you all. But
Time
my
travel.
point being, time travel. My point is that I've already forgotten about like several of these. Like, I do not remember anything that happened in the Fit Finlay match, and that this is only 3 days from having watched it.
It was
like
a
I have
good
my
match.
notes I can look at, but like
It was a good
mentally,
match.
I've got nothing that's coming to mind to note about it.
It was a good match, a very physical match, but that was it. It told they told a story in the ring, as far as Fit Finlay was kind of to come from behind babyface, but neither one of them were babyface because the crowd didn't care. You know, it's just like, okay. And the thing about this was, even though so far we've had 2 good matches and 1 kind of meh match, the crowd was kind of just there because there was nothing kind of keeping them going. What I think could have, if I was booking this show, obviously you'd tell a better story, but you should have given them something. Some kind, like the arrangement of this, move the luchadors up to the front. Maybe turn the Fit Finlay Van Hammer match into a hardcore match. And then you have a bit more things to play with. The crowd can kind of get into it, and you kind of carry them through the next bit.
I do like having the cruiserweights, because this was something WCW consistently did, where you'd have the cruiserweight division featured near the end of the card, and I do actually like that. I don't know if this card needed more gimmick matches, though. I mean, it
didn't have many, though.
A lot.
It didn't really.
It had 3.
Yeah, but not where they were needed. And I'll explain.
33% of the matches on this card were gimmick matches. How many more do you need?
Something to make that Fit Finlay match interesting. Anything. I don't care what.
Right. Shillelagh.
Anything. Shillelagh on a pole. Well, actually, no, wait, because that happens later on. Sorry, never mind. See, we've just discovered something.
Is this Rule 35?
No, this is the process that Russo went through when he was hired. Oh my God.
Explain this process.
He was logically booking what you think would work based on how the show ran before. He probably looked at these shows and said, right, what would I do? What to make it more successful? And then booked in that way. Nobody told him to cut the garbage out, and he just ran full tilt into it. Wow. Right, this is how it happened. Shows like this.
Well, yeah, it's a successful company. I'll just keep doing what's been successful for them.
Been successful. We'll kind of shake it up.
Ratings did go up under Russo. Let's not forget that.
That's
worth noting.
That's true.
It's worth noting.
Anyway, the next match was Bam Bam Bigelow who defeated Wrath. Now, Wrath looked awesome. And Bam Bam Bigelow is awesome.
Very awesome.
This match went on for nearly 10 minutes. And I do not recall one good part of the whole match.
Big guys moved around.
Yeah, it was very for anyone who didn't see it, it was very Undertaker.
Big Show.
Big Show, yeah, or Kane Big Show, or
Kane,
or it wasn't
anybody Big Show.
Yeah, it was your Big Show match without Big Show, because remember they've actually lost the Big Show at this point. He was under contract now for WWE and will make his debut a month later. So I think they were kind of hoping that Rat would be that kind of filler. By the way,
he was filler.
But the way they built him, I have to say though, right? It was 1999, but the show looked really, really not 1999. If that makes sense.
That does make sense. And for those of you might know him, you might know Wrath best as Atom Bomb. That's worth mentioning. Yeah, that was kind of his more famous. Yeah.
But yeah, what I mean is, like, when you watch WWE from the Attitude Era, the early Attitude Era, you can tell where it is, and particularly by the time we get to 1999, you're like, oh, absolutely, that is very much of its time. With this, it's less so. It's more just kind of nebulous late 90s, 2000s, but it could even be 2005.
This could be 97.
It could be 97, but it also could be 2005. You know, and actually,
let's say 2003, because this wasn't in HD.
Well, let's say it could also be 2020 because it's AEW, right?
Oh my goodness, don't do it. Don't do it.
So yeah, it just. But what I kind of like it. I think the WCW presentation really works for them in a way that it's kind of timeless in its own way. And it's funny, the actual presentation has more character than the show, than the characters, which is a shame.
That's very true.
Which is a shame. Because like you could see that he had like, you know what it is? It's like, you know, when you were younger and you'd have like one of your mates would have like a better ring or something like that with your action figures, or a good setup, but they would have like terrible figures or whatever. And that's kind of what
yes.
and that's kind of what it's like. It's like they have this great setup, this great ring, this all this kind of stuff, but they just don't know how to put a show together or just love these specific toys. And it's like, we're gonna play with these toys, and you're like, but you have all these other ones, and you're just like, no, we're gonna play these ones. And that's kind of what it was.
Great analogy. I like that a lot.
Yeah, and that's kind of what it felt like. It was like, oh, but Chris Benoit was having a really good match. No. I want Hulk Hogan, but Hulk Hogan's already. No, Hulk Hogan. Like, okay, right, fair enough. So poor Rat and Big Show. I felt bad for them because they tried and he put on
Big Show. You're just subliminally putting Big Show in this match.
Oh man. Okay, Batman Bigelow and Rat. Sorry, it was like watching Big Show. I'm sorry, and not in a good way. I felt bad for them because they tried to put on a good match and it just wasn't. It just was like guys doing stuff, and it went on for 10 minutes. Then we had a really weird segment. This segment was strange. That turned into a match. It was Lex Luger and Conan out of nowhere that became a match with Miss Elizabeth, who didn't look like me. I was like, that's not Miss Elizabeth. That can't be Miss Elizabeth. And obviously it was. You can see how kind of rough she was at this point.
Yeah, things went downhill.
Yeah, they did. And you can kind of see it now. You know, it really was like, oof. But the weirdest part wasn't the match itself. It was the kind of build up to it where it wasn't a match, but then kind of became one.
Mm-hmm.
And then all the NWO to show up and have a beatdown. And you're like, okay. And remember, the whole gimmick of this was the NWO weren't there. It was the red and black.
Right. It was the red and black. But then you still had the LWO, which was gone, but they reappeared at some point, which is bizarre.
Yeah.
I don't even know if could you do that nowadays? Could you have an LWO? I feel like you couldn't.
I think you get cancelled. Guys, let us know in chat. Would you be cancelled with the LWO nowadays? I have a feeling that, you know, Twitter would be like, oh my God, it's so racist. You're like, what are you talking about?
But then there's retribution. Oh, I guess if you're on the right side, if you're on the other, if you're on you know what I'm trying to say, people.
Yeah, if you're on the culturally correct side based on what your opinion is, that would be thing. But retribution is, I hate one thing, man. Watching modern WWE, not to go on a rant, but I'm so glad we don't talk about it because it's bad.
Speaking of bad, up next was Chris Jericho. No,
okay. So what did you think about this beatdown? Like, because this was halfway through the show, and when it happened, I was like, okay, I understand what they're doing. I understand why they're doing it. They're trying to recapture this NWO thing. Their whole plan probably was get the NWO back, push it, and then kind of undo some of the damage that was done. The big storyline was they brought Hulk Hogan back because he was gone for a while. So him coming back was important. And then obviously getting the belt back from Goldberg at Starrcade was really important. Also, remember, on the show, important thing to know, no world champion. The world champion was not shown in a match.
No.
At all.
I didn't even catch that. I probably should have when watching it. But
no US champion. no tag team titles.
But there was a cruiserweight championship.
There was. It was the only championship defended was the cruiserweight champion.
Well, you know, sometimes you don't need championship. No,
yes,
I don't. You do. Yes, you do. You absolutely do. There's no excuse.
Actually, here's the thing. You know what would have been good, right? Any of those matches that we mentioned earlier on, if they had been for a belt, at least that would have meant something. If it had been for, God forgive me, a rating like AEW do, where they have the rankings.
Ugh.
At least I know, but it would have been something instead of just here's some guys doing stuff. You know, like you could have put you could have had like the US belt on Benoit. He could have went out there, your man could have fell over a couple of times, and you know it would have been grand. You know, Norman Smiley, they eventually figured out just give him the hardcore belt, and then whatever. But this is the thing: WWE had their Stratus, their their whole thing stratified out, where you knew what you were watching at this time. In WWE, there was the hardcore belt. We've talked about this, the European belt, like stuff. Everything kind of felt in its own place and felt in its own pocket. This feels like all over the place because nothing has been spelled out. Nothing has been kind of given to the audience. It's just kind of happening, and it's exactly what we'd say about modern WWE. So it sucks, but important thing to notice: there's one title, and the world champion wasn't even there. So so sorry, just one thing for people say about Brock Lesnar not being there. Hulk Hogan was a master of this. The man never worked.
That's true.
Except himself.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that was a cut. Was
a
deep
cut. Right, next match.
Wait, you want to know what I thought of the beatdown, and then you went on a rant. Am I allowed to actually answer that question? Or
thank you. Sorry.
Good Lord, Darren.
You have to jump in, Dave. You know this. You know me long enough. Come on.
I'm aware. Speaking of jumping in, follow me on Twitter at @TheDaveStevens. I'm done leaving this till the end of the show. Damn it. Follow me.
Follow Dave.
We need to get that hashtag going.
Hashtag save Dave.
It's vital. So this match. So the beatdown. Yeah, so I was confused. I forgot how absurdly large the NWO was at this point.
As in, like,
and you had the red and the black, and I wasn't sure if they were on the same team going after.
They're not supposed to,
because they were attacking each other. This is what confused me about Hogan coming in, right? So he comes in with the red and black, but he's wearing a white shirt, and it's not until he takes off his hat that you see his bandana is red, so it's like the unification, I guess. But I was absolutely confuddled. Is that a word? Perplexed.
So I was the same.
Oh my goodness.
I was the same, and I lived through this. Right. So, what happened was there was the NWO, then it split off to the red and black in Hollywood.
Right.
And that's when Hollywood was called. That's when Hulk Hogan was called Hollywood Hogan.
Right.
That's where it comes from, right? Then they feuded for a couple of months, and the whole thing broke up.
I lived through this.
It's
like it's a war. You had a real war.
So look. So Hogan obviously took his faction off, and the Wolfpack were there, and the Wolfpack were there all the time. They never went away. So I think this whole storyline was a reunification of the whole thing, but they did such a poor job setting that up and making sense of it. Like, if this had been WWE at the time, they would have had a video package. They would have had a couple of promos throughout the whole night. They would have had, someone going and being like, "So, hey, on Nitro last week, we took over. We did this, that." The only thing that came close to that was Scott Hall's promo that made no sense. It was just rambling nonsense. It was just like, you couldn't have just got Hogan to go out and cut a promo, or anyone in your, floozy-ridden group there to cut a promo. No. Okay.
Exactly. Floozy-ridden group. Good Lord.
They're weird. They were just like random guys who were just. And Buff Bigelow is the biggest floozy ever. He's such a gimp. And it was just like the Hogan. I'm like, oh man. Like, I don't know, hate people that Buff Bigelow. I think he's gas, but he just was such a gimp. Like, the whole just being there. And anyway, so we'll get on to it. It gets worse as we go on, but strange pacing.
That was a lot. Then NWO had a lot of people, and this is when I was talking about how the backstage flows out into the onstage, because I mean, it was a point where it wasn't just like the NWO was a faction. It was also, if you're not in the NWO, you're probably not going to get paid as much. If you work for WCW. So there were real life ramifications to whether you were in the Cool Kids Club or not. And I don't know. It's weird. It's weird to go back and watch after we've read memoirs and autobiographies and stuff.
It wasn't something that would be conducive to a good working environment, I'd imagine.
No.
So, but anyway, the next match I did quite enjoy a fair bit, because it was the only one that had a storyline, really. And Jericho. One thing that really peeved me off, and you probably didn't notice it, but I did.
Okay.
Jericho's music was not that.
Okay, I was going to ask you about that, because they used "Break the Walls Down," but that was not his WCW music.
No, it was not. It was basically a weird version of "Even Flow" by Pearl Jam that was ripped off by Jimmy Hart. So I'm like, why did you? And I have to say, they actually managed to make it work really well.
They did.
Like it kind of
I honestly thought like, oh, am I wrong?
yeah.
All these years, I thought this was okay. Maybe he was using
I
WCW.
I honestly did too. I was like, oh, so maybe that's why he had the reaction when he came to WWE. But then I'm like, wait, no, I lived through this. I remember this was different. I had like a Mandela effect moment where I'm like, wait, no, this is not right. And then I'm like, oh no, they just dubbed it in, but they dubbed it in really, really well. So
Yeah.
fair play. But here's the weird thing. When Chris Benoit didn't do that for his music, they didn't pop in his music. Fit Finlay didn't pop his music, and Chavo Guerrero didn't pop his music. It was just so arbitrary. It was like, there you go. Jericho.
I don't know.
Like,
there's probably some explanation in some archive somewhere for this. I'd love to hear it.
Well, I can probably tell you the real reason, because Pearl Jam are like, we're going to sue you if you don't get rid of that. And they're like, okay.
I wouldn't.
So that's probably what happened. That's probably happened. Because here's the thing, actually, there's a video on Nerd to Know Media on the channel now. Gladiatorial combat and the wrestling, right? It's a video we did like 8 years ago in Rome, and I actually really like it. If you haven't checked it out, do. But that got hit with a copyright strike because it actually had that song in it.
Oh.
And I had to go in and I re-edited it and stuff like that, so it's gone now. But that copyright thing is quite aggressive, so that's probably what it was. And it was, yeah, it was retroactively though, because it was there for like 6 years and wasn't, and now just is. So if you guys haven't checked it out, go over to Nerd to Know Media channel. We'll link it below, and you can go over and have a look. Although, because I actually think that video holds up quite well, but I have experienced how aggressive copyright is on that song, so that's probably what happened.
That would be interesting. The storyline with this one, though, it's weird because
it's weird. Yeah, it's a weird storyline.
Perry Saturn's already wearing dresses on his own for whatever reason. So loser must wear a dress. It's like, okay. My immediate reaction was, well, clearly Chris Jericho is going to lose because it's not a big deal if Perry Saturn has to wear a dress.
Well, one thing, right?
But then Jericho wins. So what the heck was the point of this match?
Okay, so you and I had the exact same thought process. So I'm just going to park it there for 1 second. Here's the weird thing about the thing, right? So Jericho comes out and he has the whole, Rufus thing. And then Shivani's explaining, oh, initially it was just supposed to be if Perry Saturn lost, but now it's either one of them lose. And I'm just like, that's a really weird thing to say. On top of also what you've just said, where it's like Perry Saturn was just doing that anyway. So it's like, what? And then in the match, the character development is that the referee is actually in on it the whole time, and you're like,
right. What?
And the whole time you're just like, none of this was explained. The match was actually very good, but you're like, none of this was explained, so you have to kind of piece.
This is why we need good promo packages. WCW. We don't understand.
It's like
it's 20 plus years removed. Give us a break.
It's like a match like done by IKEA where you have to piece it all together by yourself, and you're like, where does this go? I have all the bits, but I don't know where any of it fits in. It's so weird. And
I'm scanning the QR code for the instructions. I can't
find it.
Me. And now for air, what?
And that was it, because I thought there was a decent story in here somewhere, and both the guys put on a really good match
somewhere.
And it's just like, I don't know what it is. So it's just like, okay. So yeah, points to Jericho and Saturn for putting on a very decent match. The only thing that kind of felt that had stakes. But then Jericho won. If Jericho had lost, it would have made more sense. It's like, okay, well, whatever. But yeah. Weird, man. I don't get it.
Would you be canceled for this match, by the way, in 2020?
I don't think you could do this match again in 2020.
I don't think you could do it.
I don't think you could do it. No. I think it would be, you could, here's the thing. WCW wasn't as it wasn't as egregious as some of the stuff we talked about in WWE, where it deserves.
No, well, that's what's fascinating about this is like
for what happened.
They figured out totally different ways to be offensive.
Yeah, but
like WWE was in your face, like we're going to be offensive to be offensive and watch us because of that. With WCW, it was more like, no, we're just trying to do our thing. It just happens to be that everything we do is offensive in the long run anyway.
Yeah, in some way, it's more kind of like, well, this is just how it is, rather than WWF where it's like we're going to push all these buttons. And one thing as well with the sign, it even goes into the crowd, because the signs I was looking for, I was like, have we got any, juicy signs to find? Or there was nothing really there. It was all kind of very tame. And obviously King isn't there saying morally abhorrent stuff either. So it was
Dusty Rhodes isn't on commentary mumbling. So
yeah, so it was just kind of like, you know, I think for all its faults, WCW is still a much more wholesome product, and I mean that in most sincere way possible. It's like if they had
if you
it
take out
just
backstage politics,
yeah,
it's more wholesome.
if they had it just told Hogan to go and you do jump off a cliff, and the rest of the NWO, they probably would have been fine. But you know they didn't, and that was kind of the problem. All backstage stuff was just tearing the show apart, which is kind of upsetting. But you know, anyway, so Jericho's your winner for some reason. Perry Saturn, you know, is still Perry Saturn. So, you know, whatever. Good match. Fun match. By the way, I did really enjoy when Benoit came out and Giovanni was like, Chris Jericho is the best wrestler. And it was like, that's Benoit. And you're like, oh yeah, he's really good too. And you're like, you're watching the show. Giovanni, come on, man. How did you?
He's just reading from a script.
He's reading from a script.
Reading
exactly.
from a script.
Yeah. Okay.
So when did Russo take over? It was late 90.
It was September 1999.
Well, this would have been before.
Yes.
So this pay-per-view was before Russo.
This was under Bischoff. Yeah.
Right. So why were you blaming Russo for the stun gun ladder match? Oh no, you were blaming him for the shillelagh
on a pole. I know.
Pole match. Okay.
No, much later on, everything would be on a pole.
Right. Yes, everything would be on a pole.
WCW 2000 is horrific. So the whole thing is.
I just wanted to clarify because what we're seeing here is it's worth saying like we're seeing the dip that caused them to have to bring Russo in.
Yeah. Well, we're seeing two things. We're seeing the dip, but then when we do a show from WWF around this time, you see how good WWF was at the time. So it's a double whammy. It's like WWE really found their feet. Yeah, WWE found their feet while WCW was going on a dip, and that combination really kind of shows you what happened later on. What happened later on?
Definitely fair.
Pure desperation,
definitely
fair.
The next,
absolutely, yeah. Like it makes sense, right? The next match, this was really good, really good. And look, we're 45 minutes in. We're going into overtime, guys. So it just has.
Are we? We're close.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. It was a fun match. The only match with stakes. I love Billy Kidman. I remember why I love Billy Kidman. His shooting star press is
the worst shooting star press in the history of the world.
How it looks so good. It looks so
fluid. What are you talking about? It's horrible. How do you like it?
I like it. I think it's great.
Okay, let me break this down for you. Let me set the stage for you. It's about 2004, 2005.
I'm not talking about 2004, 2005. I'm talking.
Now, just bear with me. Just bear with me. Right, I have a point to make. I have a point to make. Paul London is in the WWF or WWE at this time.
Now this makes sense.
He's tag team partners with Billy Kidman.
Right.
They have a match. I think it was for the Cruiserweight title. And they both in this match do a shooting star press. Billy Kidman does his typical, I'm just going to kind of flip over and flop and good luck to my opponent if they don't end up injured. Because my knees will probably end up in their face. I have no grace behind this move. I have no control over where it lands. I'm just going to try it. And then you get to see London do one. And London goes up and he does the full body extension. It's got a snap to it. He flows through the air. It's better than Matt Seidel's or Evan Bourne, whatever you want to call him. I mean, it's just a thing of pure beauty. And I go back in time and I think, okay, well, maybe Billy Kidman, and you know, we'll later go on to learn that London wasn't allowed to use the shooting star press because of Billy Kidman being in the company, even though he would end up being retired, which is bizarre in and of itself.
Can I explain why I like it?
No, you can't. So if we go back in time to 1999, I'm thinking to myself, well, maybe Billy Kidman used to be good at the shooting star press. Maybe he had some grace. Maybe he had some accuracy. No, it's pure luck that his opponents did not get a concussion every single time he did this move. It was an unsafe maneuver to do, and there was more talented people who could do it that weren't allowed to do it because he was the one who had it as his signature move. Done.
Okay.
Say you're point useless. Taken. Say your useless point that you're going to add on here. That's not going to matter.
Okay. So in context of the time, Dave, which is always important, The reason why I liked it is because it came from Raven's flock, and his kind of nonchalant way of doing it was part of the character.
I just don't think he could do it any better.
I don't think he had to. And also, what, 6 years
You
on?
You don't think he had
Hold
to?
on. If you're doing something for 6 years, night after night, actually, at this point, probably 8 years, night after night after night, you're not really going to care that much. So,
yeah, but he always did it this way. I've never seen him do it in a way.
Well, man,
even when he does it amazing, there's like an amazing shot where he does it to the outside of the ring at one point.
That was cool.
I can't remember when. It's cool, but it still looks terrible. I mean, why do you think Ricochet's shooting stars are so pretty? Because he puts a lot of time into learning how to do the flip. Billy Kidman, it's kind of like a fat kid at a swimming pool who goes on the diving board and is like, dude, I can totally do a flip, and just kind of belly flops when he tries to do a backflip.
I don't know. I liked it. I thought it was impressive. So it's okay. It's okay. It's okay to have a different opinion. Rey Mysterio was okay.
You know, I felt this strongly about this. No,
I didn't. I'm shocked. I was shocked.
Yeah, I have very strong opinions about the shooting star press.
But the minute you brought up Paul London, I was like, "This okay now makes sense." I was like, initially, I was like, "Hold on, did Billy Kidman do something to AJ Styles?" And I'm like, "No, he didn't." So yeah, look, a good 15-minute match. Again, this was kind of like a nice lift in the show because, we've had some, but this had some good stakes. It was fun, a really nice competitive match, and it was really what it needed. Like, this was
gosh,
yeah, it really was what it needed.
Young Juventud, Young Psychosis. Oh, we forget how good they used to be.
And Mysterio as well. Like, he's still, he has knees that work. He's not held together by duct tape and luck. It's...
But even Mysterio 2 years ago, 3 years ago in the Indies was wrestling insane matches.
Yeah,
I mean, absolutely. For whatever reason, there's something about him. He just can keep going. Juventud, I always worry about a little bit because, well, he has a very. There was a story of him in WWE at one point where he tried to win the Cruiserweight Championship when he wasn't supposed to.
Well, he just goes into business for himself.
Yeah, he went into business for himself and tried to legitimately pin his opponent. He also, when Paul London wasn't allowed, back to Paul London again. When Paul London wasn't allowed to do the shooting star press, London switched to doing the 450 splash, and Juventud decided to do it in one of their matches and ended up giving a concussion to somebody by landing incorrectly. So then London got banned from doing the 450 splash too, because they just straight up banned any flips from the top rope. So I just have a bad taste in my mouth when it comes to Juventud. Really, a lot of people in this match screwed over Paul London is my issue.
We're going to have to institute a new rule. When we're talking about Benoit, you have to forget what he did unless it comes up. And when it comes to Paul London, you can't retroactively be angry with people about stuff they did 6 or 7 years after the fact. Because you're going to have a bad time. Like, it's just, the same with Owen Hart. Just forget what happened if you're watching an Owen Hart match. Just for that time as we're doing it, because you'll have a bad time. Now, we are 51 minutes. So we're going to go into overtime. We are going to go into overtime.
So you're welcome, Ireland. You'll never hear the main events ever. But what you should be doing is checking us out on our many different platforms, and Dara is going to tell you where you can find us.
Absolutely. So if you're checking us out on Phoenix 92.5 FM, thank you very much. We are going to be back to normal streaming. We're still kind of working out a time slot, so we don't know. We will let you know on our social media. We are on nerdtoknowmedia.com, obviously, Nerd to Know Media YouTube channel, Spotify, all that kind of stuff. But if you want to catch us live, we're on the Wrestling Rewind channel on YouTube. And what's great about that, if you subscribe there, we're able to actually interact with you directly, polls, and also community posts. So that's really cool. I didn't even realize we could do that. So we're actually able to kind of interact with you guys directly on the channel. So when we do kind of figure out a proper schedule and time, we'll let you guys know there. And hopefully all the technical stuff has worked out. Also, we're on the True Penny channel. So thank you to James True Penny for that as well. And go over and subscribe to his stuff over on Spotify. And we'll be back next week here on Nerd to Know Media, the Wrestling Rewind, Phoenix 92.5 FM. This is the Wrestling Rewind. We'll talk to you after this break if you're joining us on the stream, or next week if you're checking us out on Phoenix 92.5 FM. See you in a bit, guys. All right. And we're back. The shortest break in the history of man.
It was a great break, I thought.
It was. I think it was good.
Great break.
So listen, I am going to work on ads at some point, but you know, whenever. Well, we finally got around to moving the channel over here, so that's good.
Yeah, guys, cut us some slack. It only took us 5 months.
Hey, come on, man! The
We
world
made
ended.
progress.
The world ended,
world
and
ended.
the world ended, and I had to work through the whole lot of it. So
Same.
you know, it just wasn't good. You know, I everyone else is like, oh, I had so much time off work. I'm like, really? I didn't.
Who are these people?
Yeah, I was like, I didn't. It's worked the entire time. I've never been busier. So yeah, fun times. Anyway, yeah, what's great about over here is we can actually do polls and stuff. So I think
yes,
we'll be able to put
that's
polls
the one
and
advantage
people,
to this YouTube channel, and the
yeah,
number of subscribers and views and stuff is it unlocks a lot of features for us.
Absolutely. So we're going to be able to add more to that as well and make it a bit more interactive for you guys. So thanks for bearing with us. And again, you know, subscribe to both Nerd to Know Media channel and also this one, because content goes up on both, but content is different on both. So it's kind of like the NWO, WCW, right?
Exactly. We are the NWO of Nerd to Know Media. Yeah, we will be aiming for that 7:15 Eastern slot on Tuesdays, hopefully.
Yeah. So we'll, you know, it's going to be a bit rough for a little bit, but it'll either be Tuesdays or if not, maybe this time as well, because either works fine. We'll figure it out. It's gonna be around this time anyway. I kind of like this a little bit more because it's a bit more chill than
it's very relaxed. I feel very relaxed tonight.
Me too. Yeah. All right, the next one, right? And here's the weird thing. So it was Ric Flair and David Flair. Now, obviously, again, forget what happened to David Flair. Just look at it this way.
He did.
Yeah. And then Kurt Hennig.
Oh no! Now I remember.
Yeah, don't see.
Oh,
see, yeah, don't see.
Oh,
that's
they
what I mean?
used it as a storyline. Oh no!
Yeah, no.
Oh no!
Yeah. See,
no!
I shouldn't have said anything. Yeah, I shouldn't have said anything.
It never once crossed my mind while I watched this match.
Again, I lived through this, so I remember David Flair before.
I actually remember David Flair from this too. This is one of the things that stood out for me. It was the main event in this match. So I was actually, as a child, I was silly and excited for David Flair's debut match because I just assumed that he would be as awesome as his dad.
You know what though, right? You're not wrong. I was too. And so were a lot of other people. I remember I had this magazine and my grandparents got it for me. My grandmother got it for me. It was called like Badass Dudes. And it was like this weird indie ultra violent wrestling magazine. And there was like, it was like you had the WWF magazine and Raw and that, right? But for some reason we got these weird indie magazines where you'd have like, you know when you see a WWE photograph that isn't from WWE photographers, and it's all kind of black, and it's, you know, the lighting isn't perfect. It would be full of those pictures, right? And that was the first time that I really kind of saw how graphic the Royal Rumble 1999 match was, right? Because it had like really grotesque pictures of Mick Foley's head being smashed open, right? Oh, yes. But it also had weird ads, like ads for like horror websites, and not websites, but like stuff you could buy and really cool Undertaker things and that. But and ECW, WCW, now it was actually like a really cool magazine. If you guys remember it, please leave a comment below, because I remember that magazine. I don't want to Google Badass Dudes because, you know, I'm Rule 34. I'm pretty sure it means something else nowadays, but back then it didn't. And Tommy Dreamer was always in it as well. Tommy Dreamer was in it all the time. So
I believe it.
It was what it was. But anyway, yeah, they made a big thing out of David Flair, like a massive thing around this time. And obviously this was from 1999 as well, so it was from that time period. And yeah, so when this match happened, I was like, oh, this is going to be great. Watching it 20 years later, do you want to guess what I thought?
What did you think?
This happened again. This is literally
the
Dominic match, the Dominic angle with Seth Rollins. When I was watching it, I'm like
going through my head when I started to say that, and I'm wondering, are we so pessimistic now?
I don't think so,
because we got hyped up when we were young and bought in, and it's been ruined for us.
I don't know, like this. I don't know, man. Like David Flair, I think the way they did it here was okay. Let's compare the two, right? I think the way they did it here was better because it actually had some real stakes. They didn't blind Ric Flair, right? They just kind of said, right, we need backup. So already,
fair enough.
yeah.
They didn't.
So
They
they
didn't
didn't.
literally rip his eye out.
Yeah,
Yep, you're right.
they didn't do all the stupid stuff that they would do in WWE, right? So what I
I'll
like
give you
about it
that.
is it's like, you know, the Flares are uniting as men to go against this behemoth of the NWO, right? And I think that's great. And already you're like, okay, it's the underdog story. He's not a wrestler, but he wants to defend his dad. WWE doing it, they already have Dominic's doing it because his dad is blind.
Right.
It's kind of stupid. And also, David Flair wasn't a wrestler.
No, not trained at all, unfortunately.
No, but I mean, like in the storyline, he wasn't a wrestler.
Right. He wasn't billed as a wrestler.
Yeah.
Where Dominic is coming out in full gear.
Exactly, and he's coming out as a wrestler, and you're like, but you're shit though, you know. And it's just like,
well, and and we're kind of seeing Ric Flair as the president.
Yes.
Of WCW. So are they trying to recapture the magic of Shane McMahon being the CEO's son in WWE and actually being fantastic?
Maybe, but again, Shane McMahon wasn't fantastic yet. He had one match at WrestleMania the year before, and that was against X-Pac, and it wasn't a good match. He hadn't come into his own yet. We're not there yet. So I would say no.
Right, but I mean, that's what I'm trying to see. Like, are they trying to one up?
No.
Because there's a lot of back and forth.
There could have been, but I don't think there was that awareness. I just think it was a pretty good story to tell at the time.
It was. Now, I will say my biggest complaint about this match and why I like it now. Well, I liked it now. I like it then, having watched it now. Time travel.
Yep.
But this was a Cody Rhodes match.
Yeah, really was.
This was that kind of it's a very storyline driven with older wrestlers and bringing in the old prestige, and that's what this match was about. It was more about the Four Horsemen and who was and wasn't actually in the group. So it had that mystique to it that I really liked. Unlike with Cody Rhodes, where then they would do it 20 times in a row and I get tired with it. This was a one-off, which I liked.
While you said it was a Cody Rhodes match, I'd go further and say it was a Randy Orton match. And
early Randy Orton, Legend Killer.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it kind of felt like that. But I think it had, and that's, because that's what Randy Orton kind of learned from, right? He probably obviously picked all this up. I think David Flair was kind of the prototype Randy Orton character, where it's like you're going to learn all this kind of stuff and go off, and the way he works is very similar to it. It shows a lot more in Cody Rhodes. And you're right, this match probably will be done next week on Dynamite.
Hey, Dynamite. Is that what that show is called?
Yeah, I don't know. It's some garbage anyway. AEW hot garbage. I think that's a better name for it. Recycled garbage. AEW recycled garbage. But yeah, and like, if this had been it, I think that would have been great. But also, what I like about it is because we're watching it in this slice of the show, when WCW were on, they were still really good even at this point. Because, as I said, we haven't said anything that's like actually categorically bad. We're just saying the stuff that isn't necessarily interesting, which is sometimes worse, because at least if it's bad, and you're like, oh, it's bad. But with this, it's like, it's not interesting. With this, everything was ready to go. They had the stars aligned, they had a good storyline, they had everyone involved, and then it gets ruined by a run-in. But the run-in was cool too. But what the run-in was kind of cool, because it was like, right, we got the Seth Rollins, like we got the whole Seth Rollins angle in like what, 20 minutes? Where it was like, true. Yeah, we got the match, we got the redemption, and then we got the beatdown. Instead of getting it over 3 nights, we got it in 20 minutes.
All at once.
At once. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's where it went wrong, because you could have probably spaced that out, but instead, Hogan had to come out on top.
He did have to come out. Now, I will say, I noticed, we always talk about how Billy Gunn was an obvious influence to Dolph Ziggler, but I forgot how much Dolph Ziggler acts like his dad, and how creepily he looks like him, especially as Dolph is getting, well, not creepily, I mean, it's genetics, but the older Dolph is getting, the more he looks like Kurt Hennig as well.
Absolutely. And it's
very, very real. And it's so bizarre because You know, we know he dies, obviously, and it's horrific.
Which is, you know what, and that was the one that actually I was, even though I would say forget what happened, Kurt Hennig is like someone who I always kind of missed not being in WWE. And then when he came back, for like the very short run, I was like, oh, he was only there for like a year, and then he dies, and you're like, oh man. So every time I watch him, I'm like, this is so upsetting. Why didn't you just go? It's like with the Big Boss Man. It's like, why didn't you just stay at WWE? It was fine there.
Yeah. But my point was, like, there's actually not that big of a gap between the time that Kurt Hennig passed away to the time that Dolph Ziggler debuts in WWE. It's only a course of like 5 years or so.
I don't think they're related, dude. I just think they look a lot alike.
Wait, it's not his dad?
No, I don't think so.
I'm just making something up over here.
I think so, yeah. I don't think they're related. If they are, let us know.
Did he have a dad? Does Kurt Hennig have a son that wrestled that I'm totally mixing up Dolph Ziggler with?
Dolph Ziggler looks like is Nick Nemeth. That's his name.
I know.
So I don't think they're related. I was just letting you go with it, and I'm like, where's he going with this?
Sorry for hitting my mic. Please. I swear he has a son that wrestles.
Guys, we're professionals.
I got nothing.
We're wrestling journalists for 10 years.
There's nothing. I'm just making crap up.
Anyway, Dave just really, really wants this family unit of Kurt Hennig, Billy Gunn,
I don't know why I'm so excited.
And Dolph Ziggler.
I was so into. I was like dead on, like serious too. Like, this is legitimately what I've been thinking for like 10 years of my life.
I just thought you were doing a bit.
My mind is blown. No,
I just thought you were doing a bit.
No, my mind's blown.
I was like, where is he going with this? This is a very elaborate bit. But
you couldn't have like sent me a message, give me like a heads up, like, Dave, you've lost the plot, man. Anyway. I'm glad this isn't how we left off on the radio and into overtime, because somebody in Ireland would have been like, wait, what? Who am I?
So to clarify,
let's do some research for next week.
Yeah, so research definitely. So
just to clarify, Mike Awesome was Kenny Powers' father.
Okay. No, let's hold on.
Kenny in the Spirit Squad, because everybody in the Spirit Squad was the son of a former wrestler.
Is that true?
No.
Oh.
No. The only one was Husky Harris. And
he wasn't in the Spirit Squad.
I give up.
This is why I do the historical context, Dave. Okay, moving swiftly on from that.
This will be taken out of context for years to come, ladies and gentlemen.
So we had the main event.
It's been a long week of work, man.
It's fine. I would have been the same if we had it done on Tuesday, man. My brain was totally fried, so don't worry. I was just like, no, I need time. So look, the Stun Gun ladder match. What a name. What a gimmick.
Stun Gun ladder match. This is the reason that I picked this out to watch. I really like this.
So to win a Stun Gun ladder match.
Wait, he had a son named Joe Hennig.
Curtis
Axel.
There you go.
Curtis Axel was Kurt Hennig's son. Yeah. There we go. That's what I was mixing up. So
anyway,
mystery solved.
To win a Stun Gun ladder match, one must
just barreling ahead. I appreciate it.
I am. I'm just trying to dig up. So to win a Stun Gun ladder match, you must first get the stun gun and then use it. You can't just pull down it and then that's it. Like all other ladder matches in the history of the world. No, this is not like that.
Essentially makes it an on a pole match.
Yeah, it's a very obtuse on a pole match. So the story of this is obviously that Goldberg is angry with Scott Hall and he wants to be able to use the stun gun. They also did a number on Goldberg's knee before the show, which
hate that.
Yeah, I was not a fan of that.
I hate when you beat up a wrestler before a match and they're already crippled on the way.
Unless they do what WWE did, where they turned into an angle throughout the whole night and they busted each other
don't
open.
Do this Daniel Bryan. Don't do the Daniel Bryan thing.
No, but you know the way Undertaker and Austin, where they were both bleeding coming out.
Oh, okay, yes.
I thought that was cool.
That wasn't really an injury. Like they're not gimpy for the rest of the night.
No, but it's a first blood match and they're both bleeding.
So, yeah, that's true. You know? But as we've discovered on this show, Undertaker loves to enter first blood matches while already being cut
He
open.
does. It's like his thing. So we'll
It's
just
his
have to
thing.
keep. Yeah, we have to keep an eye on that because that man loves to just bleed randomly. So fair enough. Okay, so look, Goldberg, Goldberg, and booking him in a ladder match for about 20 minutes should work. But he's also in there with, now, admittedly, with someone who is kind of past his prime, and also, you know,
You know.
yeah, but
You know.
it is still Scott Hall, the man who had probably one of the best ladder
Mm,
matches of all time, up until what a ladder match meant changed. But he did kind
right.
of define it for like 5 years, until actually, he would at this time the ladder match hadn't been redefined yet, because it wouldn't
No,
happen,
this
and it wouldn't
well,
happen. No,
when does TLC that when was the first?
So the first real ladder match, which we haven't got to, which we will when we go back to WWF, was in No Mercy 1999 in October, and that
Oh,
was
okay.
the Terry Invitational Tournament. Yes, TIT,
Okay.
the Terry
Gotcha.
Invitational Tournament, and that's when
Gotcha.
that's when Edge and Christian and the Hardys redefine a ladder match. So at this point,
Right.
Scott Hall actually has the honor of really kind of being the guy who helped engineer what at that point
Unless
was
you
the first ladder
talk
match.
unless you talk to Bret Hart.
But Bret Hart, Bret Hart's Bret Hart.
Apparently it's a point of contention. Bret Hart claims that he came up with the idea for a ladder match and that Shawn Michaels stole it from him.
Look, I don't care who came up with it. I'm saying they redefined it. They made it what it was, and having that reputation. So this was very smart, actually. And having Goldberg, who, immediately was known for having 30-second matches,
Right.
have this kind of match was very impressive. So fair play to Scott Hall for actually probably carrying this, because he probably was carrying it. But yeah, Goldberg won, got the W, and that was it. So what did you? Again, this was kind of the main event by. It kind of had to be, but it didn't really feel like a main event. It didn't feel like it was worthy of our attention as in a Starrcade or something. But then Starrcade is the WrestleMania, so that's kind of a bad comparison. It didn't feel like a backlash. It didn't feel like a backlash.
That's what I was going to say. Is this supposed to be a backlash to a Starrcade, essentially?
Yeah, kind of, sort of. Like, the weird thing with WWE is where anything you watch at WrestleMania, you knew you were going to get a backlash in some way. It was going to kind of bleed over. With WCW, it was less that, like, because everything was kind of faction based. It would usually be something along that line. But this was one of the weird carryovers where, yeah, Goldberg wants his revenge. So it was kind of an outlier in that sense. But yeah, this is supposed to be a backlash pay-per-view, and it really doesn't. Like, you compare WrestleMania 1999 to Backlash 1999. Backlash is a better show, like, in loads of ways. Right. Which we'll get to at some point, because I actually really like Backlash 1999. This is not as good as Starrcade 98, but it's not bad either. I thought the way they booked this match made sense. The spots were good. Scott Hall does a great job. Goldberg looks very passable. Looks like he can actually hang in another match, which is impressive. And here's the thing.
This was a fun match. Like this, I know that, like, you thought going into it when you saw this on the card, you were going to be like, David, why?
Yeah,
like this honestly, was actually in my mind. This is
actually pretty good. Yeah,
this is what I enjoy. And the we keep saying stun gun. I should say that they, other than Michael Buffer, they called it a cattle prod throughout the night, which was probably for like legal reasons, I would imagine.
Well,
they've kind of gone the way of the wayside, by the way of the wayside, or whatever the turn of phrase is, because I remember in like the late 90s, early 2000s, like stun guns were a big thing. Like kids would like get them as like contraband, and they would do like presentations on them in school and stun themselves, thinking that it would give them extra points with the teachers. Like, for whatever reason, they were a pop culture thing.
Hold on, go back for a second. What?
What?
Is that American? America's weird, man. You guys are strange.
America's. I know of at least 2 instances where somebody did a presentation on a stun gun, and they thought it'd be a great idea during the presentation to illustrate by stunning themselves with the stun gun or the cattle prod. So this was like, I don't know, maybe just I knew some interesting people, but this seemed to be a weird fad in the early 2000s going around, and you don't hear much about them. Now we got the tasers that shoot. You don't really hear much about the full-size cattle prods being used or anything.
That's probably a good thing, Dave.
But you know what
See,
I miss them, is what I'm saying. Because I remember growing up thinking, oh, I wonder if when I'm like that age, I'll do it to myself as well. Like, and then they just weren't around.
You sound sad by that.
I was sad. I want to experience. I like pain sometimes, and I wanted to experience what it was, I guess. I'm gonna circle this back around here real quick. So basically, I miss. You know what this is like? I miss stun guns.
I have the same pulsament as the time you said you smelled Ted DiBiase Jr. and told him, just like, what's going on, man? You know, America's weird. Weird stuff happens there, and the whole world is just like, what are you doing?
I don't know which one. Like we only have the ones that shoot. No,
I don't know what you mean. Don't.
I mean, we have the ones that shoot nowadays. You don't see them with the holding off the batons.
We don't either. We don't have these in Ireland. Our guards like have little sticks.
What do you mean? You have cattle. You have cattle.
Yeah, but we don't cattle prod people.
Well, right. Well, understood. Now, do you think that they were? Because I always wanted to believe that they were really using the electricity from the stun guns. You think they were really stunning Goldberg, right? Like they were really shocking him?
Nah, I think it was all work.
What?
Yeah.
No, it's not work.
Yeah, it was a work.
No.
Yeah, everything's
it's Goldberg. He's a tough NFL player.
Well, to be fair, like Goldberg would smash his arm open, like legit, because he hit the wrong part of a car like a couple of months later on. So maybe, but I think
we are talking about a guy. So you don't think even when he got stunned, you don't think he was like, all right, you need to stun me for real if I'm going to lose this title because I'm so into
I don't know.
My character.
I think maybe the first time, possibly. Definitely.
You're welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Not only do I not know whose father is who, I also was convinced up until today that the stun gun was more than a prop. Next week on the Wrestling Rewind, we'll cover how I thought the electrocution match was a real electrocution.
It's still real to Dave, damn it. It's still real to Dave.
Apparently.
But hey, that just shows you what a good job they did, right? They actually believe you had them down,
I don't know. Or I was just, 10 years old.
Fair. Look, I thought this overall.
I learned a lot today. I learned a lot on this podcast today about life.
You did. Well, that's the main thing. That's what we try.
About gimmicks.
That's what we try. Okay, so look, to wrap up the show, I'm going to give it a grade that's going to seem unfair, but it's not. I'm going to give it a C+.
Oh!
Well, there we go. Okay.
It's definitely a C show, for sure.
Here's the thing, right? With a bit of tweaking, this could be a proper beat. Okay, you know what this is like, right? So Ireland has a theme park. Our only theme park. It's called Tato Park. It's for crisps. Of course it is.
It's for what?
For crisps. Or
for
chips.
What?
Chips. You guys call them chips.
Crisps? Oh,
they're chips. Potato chips. We call them crisps.
Wait, hold on. Let me just focus back in. You have a theme park that's specifically for potato chips.
Yeah.
All right, carry on. I don't.
Yeah.
Okay, no, America's weird. You're right. Please continue.
Man, what did you expect? Come on, like for Guinness.
No, I just realized that I would like a theme park for Guinness.
So would I.
Fantastic.
Anyway, right.
A log flume rides on Guinness.
So I went there.
Extra stout.
So I went there a couple of months ago after the first.
We actually have a theme park for chocolate. So what am I talking about?
Yeah, Hershey Park is unreal, dude. I love Hershey Park. Anyway, I went there when I was 9. So actually around the same time with this pay-per-view. So anyway, yeah. So
did you get tased while you were there?
No, I didn't. But my point on this is Ireland has this theme park, right? And it has all the accoutrements of a proper theme park, like the infrastructure we have.
Wait, why do you call it fish and chips if then you call chips crisps? Why isn't it fish and crisps?
Because chips are French fries.
But crisps are still a gang?
No, okay, hold on, right. So you guys call potato chips. Sorry, you guys call crisps potato chips, right?
Correct.
We call French fries chips. Yeah.
And you call the opposite of the Bloods Crips still. That doesn't change overseas?
We don't have Bloods or Crips.
Oh.
Yeah. It doesn't cross continent, dude.
It doesn't cross. No. It's not an international. It's not New World Order all the way. No.
No. They're pretty much contained in LA. So
LA. Okay.
LA is about 7 hours behind us. So yeah, we're fine. Anyway.
That's how
anyway. So basically, right,
stun guns.
We have all this. We have like pretty much the bare bones of a theme park, right? Pretty good roller coaster, really good log flume ride, all that kind of stuff. Awesome zoo, right? but there's no pizzazz. There's no, zazzle. It's all very, needs a bit of a touch. Needs like a little bit of touch. So if you kind of added just a little bits here and there, it would be fantastic, right? And it's not much, just a bit of a rearranged here, some figures here, a bit of dressing up here and there, whatever, right? And that's kind of what it feels like for this show. It's a workable show. It has some pretty good elements in it. It's an entertaining show, has some great matches, but things are kind of all over the place. Because it's not put together in a way that it holds your attention the entire time. That's why I'm giving it such a low grade. But
I think it's fair if you compare it to what would be an A+ show. Like,
exactly.
It's not World War III good. I was almost able to pick another pay-per-view.
Wrestling journalist for 10 years.
It's not Bash at the Beach 95 good.
Okay, fair. And there are good WCW shows, right? And I think you can do worse, and they're so much worse. But this
is a fun show to watch.
It's
one of those. It's like you got to watch it and be like, all right, I don't really understand why I'm watching it, but I wasn't not entertained. I didn't get bored and go do something else.
I wasn't mad either. Like I wasn't like I started watching it and I was playing Knights of the Republic, and then I stopped because I actually was more interested in watching the show. And that means it was a good show, because I'm like, actually I'm enjoying this. But the things of nothing meaning anything or just being confused because no one explained anything or no one told you what was going on, that kind of held it back. And then also no real stakes. But then when it really started firing, like I loved the Chris Jericho match, because watching Chris Jericho wrestle at this time is just great. The Benoit match was really good despite it being a squash match. The Fatal 4-Way with the Cruiserweights was unbelievable. And then the main event, surprisingly, was like a really decent match. So it had all these great moments, just as I said, like Tato Park. A few bits here and there would bring it up from being a C+ to being a B+ or even an A. This could have been an A show. It just didn't have those little bits that you want, right? Like, again, you can kind of see how the WWE was able to just run with it. Now, remember, WWE is still winning the war at this point, right?
Yes.
So, but this was around the time they were going to start losing it. This was around the time of the infamous Raw thing.
WCW was still winning the war at this time.
WCW was still winning. Yeah, exactly. And then they do the infamous Giovanni line around this time. Hasn't happened yet, but you can definitely see that shift changing, like drastically changing now as we're going into 1999. So look, fair play to WCW for having this great show. The network, I'm still shocked that their editing is so good now that it's still really decent. And
somebody went in and did this. Somebody cared enough about this pay-per-view that they went in and they changed this. And edited things
for the better. Here's the thing: if WWE wanted to go in and really make it good, they could have. And here's the thing: I think this would be a great idea. Have someone do a preview.
Do a deep fake.
Well, no,
do a deep fake on. No, I want this. I want this for old wrestling pay-per-views. Somebody out there is probably trying to render this in Adobe right now, but just for, I want to get some deep fake matches done for real.
No, in all seriousness, what I think would be a good thing to do, even for content for them, is to have someone from WWE in the archives just doing a preview or recap of the storylines for all these shows.
Like, that'd be cool. Or if it's kind of like we talk about with, it'd be nice if we could see Heat before the pay-per-view. Maybe if you tied this in and there's a link to watch the Nitro before or the Thunder before the show.
Just something to kind of weave these together, because obviously at the time you'd be watching it week to week, but because it's 20 years, all that supplemental stuff isn't there. So that would be a cool thing to do. Like with WWE, because the way the production is done or was done at this point, it was all so clear and so good that if you just had Heat, it's a natural thing. With this, there was not, it was just like, okay, we're going to run through it real quick. But how cool would it be to have, well, I know a lot of them are in AEW, but you could have someone from their Booker T maybe, because he's actually on the show, and just have Booker T going, hey, or even Ric Flair, just hire Ric Flair for a couple of days to do this and just be like, hey, so here's what was going on at the time. Here's the storyline, blah, blah, blah. And then you'll watch it.
Oh, yeah, that'd be cool. Like they do on DVDs where Edge will narrate and say,
absolutely.
Yeah, I
think that would be a really cool idea. And WWE, you can send my check in the post. So if you use that idea, but I think it's a cool idea, and I think that would really kind of add to that, because and remember, I think it's a lot easier for them to do this with WWE content because they were there and they were producing it. With WCW stuff, it's kind of harder. So this stuff would even be better for people trying to get back in. And, that's what I do. Honestly, I think that's something that they should work
paychecks for some of those guys that could use a surgery or two.
Yeah,
never hurt.
Use a bit. Exactly, use a bit of it. And because, look, what else are they? Now would be a good time to do it because, they're at home.
Yeah. And hey, bring the cattle prod back while you're at it.
I swear to God, Dave, if we have to watch a pay-per-view match with a cattle prod, I'm blaming you. I'm blaming you.
I'll be so happy. I'll be doing a Twitter countdown every day.
Oh my God. Anyway, so guys, that's gonna be it. We kind of went it over a little bit this week, but I think it was warranted. Good to be back doing a live show. We're gonna make them more regular now that we're still working out a time slot that works. It will probably be around this time, either Tuesday or Friday. That seems to be what we're aiming for now. Going up on the True Penny channel. 2 shows went up on the True Penny channel. Everything goes up on nerdtoknowmedia.com. All the Spotify links and everything is archived over on this channel, but also Nerd to Know Media as well. If you like what we do here, please do support us. Click that link for the Ko-fi, or you can PayPal us. That also helps too. And leave a comment, subscribe, and tell all your friends, because this is the only wrestling podcast done by people who do not hate wrestling. That's important. So, guys, we'll be back next week here on the Nerd to Know Media channel, the Wrestling Rewind channel, and, of course, Phoenix 92.5 FM and the True Penny channel. Guys, see you then. Bye.